Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And tonight we've got the lovely Marinna Rose on. Marinna Rose wants to live in a world where connecting with your soul's messages and guides is commonplace for all walks of life. A sought-after International Soul Alchemist, using tools such as scientific hand analysis, intuition, and deep understanding, Marinna brings her clients from pain and struggle to fully living their soul purpose. Her specialty is working with powerful women in transition, helping them every step of the way. She has successfully produced and hosted her own Educational Telesummit on freedom from addictive behaviors and created an interactive online program, 21 Steps to Soul Discovery. She is gifted in soul-guided meditation and has created her own Soul Bird CD with guitar Monk Mathew Dixon, who is Dr. Joe Vitale. Is that?
Joe Vitale. Yeah,
Vitale.
Yeah.
Vitale's music partner, as well a facilitator of Soul Mastermind Retreats to Belize, Bimini, Bahamas, and Florida. She's a forthcoming author of a memoir about her UFO encounter that has changed her perception of reality forever. So Marinna, thanks for coming on. We had a few chats on Facebook, but I'm glad that we finally got the timing to come on. So thanks for coming and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Anik. Happy to be here.
Yay. So yeah, you went into your experience somewhat briefly, but but tonight I'm hoping that we're gonna get more into details regarding that, because you sent me a drawing and I was totally blown about the details that went into that. So perhaps when can you tell the everyone that and myself when the encounter happened?
Yeah, so this was back in 2016, and in April, I think it was April 9th, if I'm remembering the date right. Actually, in this house where I'm at right now, where we're doing this, I typically every night before I go to bed, I kind of do a little overview and a little gratitude meditation. And that night, it was just, I don't know, the last few days prior to that day, it was like the energy was super jazzed up. It was like the frequency just felt really high. And I was really connecting with a lot of information. I was receiving a lot of downloads. So I asked my guides that night before I went into meditation to show me something that would shift my perception of reality forever, whether it was in my meditation or in my dream state, so that when I woke up the next morning, I would be looking at life differently. I know that sounds like totally corny, right? But sometimes you get what you ask for. And it was one of those immediate, it didn't take me long to get in meditation. It was just, there it was. I had this being that, you have in the graphic, this woman came right through my, really my wall. I was in my bedroom. I was sitting on my bed. She comes right to the left side of me on my bed. And she's in this like live consciousness. You'd ask me about the electric blue. It was electric blue, and it was a live consciousness. It looked like the Aurora Borealis, and she was fascinating looking. She was like a woman from the 50s, with the bouffant hair and the white. It was like skunk hairdo with the almond eyes. Very petite, super petite, and also super confident, like a very humble confidence, loving confidence that I got from her. And she was in this, it was almost like a black leather cat suit, right? And she just came to the side of me, and it was all telepathic, and it was basically like, you got to come for a ride with me. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, okay. And so and of course this is meditation. It's like 3 parts. So I get on the back in this bubble. So it's kind of like a motorcycle or like a jet ski. I get behind her and I put my arms around her waist, and we just go back out pretty much through the walls and the roof of my house. and we're just going super fast through the sky. And now I know I'm like in the galaxy. I don't know where, I'm just like, I kind of went back and forth from being there to being the observer. It was very interesting. And I felt very safe with her, it was like home. And I just remember feeling air kind of blowing like you would in the car, when you have a vent on in the car, like I knew I had oxygen. So, it was very interesting. So the next thing I know, we show up at, I guess what you call the mothership, because it was exactly like the ship that her and I were in. It was almost like a little personal, ship just created out of her consciousness, right? So now we arrive at this enormous mothership. Again, electric blue, live consciousness, beautiful. And I just keep going, well, this is interesting, right? Like this is quite the meditation. Right? So I enter the ship, and as I enter the ship, I hear, and the information is kind of coming in from this side, like to my right side of my neck, that my mother's essence is there. And it's like a repetitive, your mother's essence is here, your mother's essence is here. And it didn't stop. My mother passed away in 2007. And as I had mentioned, that was the start of my spiritual journey, start of me just waking up to appreciate life, many levels. So there's a couple of facets I'll get into why I think that was said. But certainly it made me feel comfortable, right? Your mother's essence is there, but when I got on the ship, it was beautiful. Like it felt like home. I felt like I had come home is how I felt. So as I walk in, it's like, I know that there's other beings there, but it's like I'm not allowed to see them. So it's like a feeling. I know they're all there, but it's like it's blank, right? I just see the rooms, and it's like white rooms. I don't remember anything but just like white in these two rooms. And, this woman was still with me, and she was the only one that I was, let's say, allowed to see. Whether it be my consciousness allowing it, I'm not really sure. So then the next thing I know, I look over to my right, and it's this beautiful beach with the sun shining and the ocean. And I'm like, really? There's a beach on a UFO? This is crazy. And then I'm like, okay, honey, you're on first of all, you're admitting to yourself that you're on a UFO, and now you're going to question that there's a beach in front of you. Like, come on. Yeah. So I am intuitively guided to walk onto this area of this beach. As I walk over there, everything was telepathic. I was just getting all this information, and I was being told that this is a very special place for them. It's like where they get their life force energy. It's like food for them. Church, however you want to describe it. For some people, it's like they go there to rejuvenate. So then they had these lounge chairs that went all along kind of the beach water, but they weren't normal lounge chairs. They were like the most ergonomic lounge chairs you could ever imagine. They had whatever your beingness needed to rejuvenate would come out of the ground and create this chair for you. So whatever herb, whatever, natural, anything that you needed would come out and just envelop your body and give you what you needed. So I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. So I'm like, well, I don't know what else to do. So I may as well sit down and take a load off. So I sit down on the edge of one of the chairs. Before I know anything, the next thing I know, there's dolphins jumping up out of the water. And they're just like, we're ecstatic. We are so happy that you're here. We've been waiting for a really, really long time for you. And they started kind of like nipping at my feet and kind of like, wanting to pull me in the water. They're like, come on, it's time. We need your help. Come on, let's go. Like, you got to start this mission. Like, time, it's like right now. And I'm like, okay, what do you need me to do? What's this mission? And the next thing I realize is I'm back in my bedroom. And I look at the clock, and I went into this meditation at about 11 p.m. and it was now 1 a.m. And I was like, this was like 10 minutes. So there's no way that.
Ooh.
So I'm like, well, that's interesting. So then I look over to my window and my curtain wasn't completely shut. So I could see, outside. And it was April, so there were no leaves. So I could see clear sky. And I see this star and it's like bouncing up and down out there. And I'm like, what the heck is that? So I have to get up to go see what this is, because that's not normal. So I go to my window and I open the curtain up so I can see better. And just behind me here, there's just a little development of houses. And just above the houses is the mothership in the sky that I was on in my meditation, right? And I'm like, I just stand there, my mouth dropped in front of this window going, oh my God, I don't even know what to think. And it just sat there in one spot for probably about 3 or 4 seconds. And then it went, and it just disappeared into thin air. So I sat there for a couple of hours, right? I had obviously been, I do a lot of spiritual work. I'm like the most deep dive person you'll know. People had talked to me about, outer world beings and all of this world. And I was like, I don't know, I don't know. I know there is, right? But I don't know. I haven't experienced anything. So until I do. And so I was never a seeker, right? At all. Like, it didn't matter to me. I just knew that I was on my path and on my mission, and whatever needed to happen would happen. So as I'm standing in front of this window, I again, like I had mentioned earlier about timeline, it was like I was shown this entire timeline of my life and how all of the pieces connected, but also pieces that, it's like you can't look at life the same after you've had an experience like this. You just can't. It's not possible. The only way that you could is if you shut yourself down in complete denial that it happened, which I know people do. But I knew when this happened to me, I knew, again, telepathically, intuitively, I was meant to speak about this because I knew that there was going to be healing from me expressing this story on some level. So I go back to bed, and of course I don't sleep because, that was crazy. And I wake up the next morning, and I had actually been suffering I had a hip issue for like 1.5 years prior to this. And I was just getting to the point where I was like, oh gosh, this is getting bad. I really need to have this looked at before, I do more damage, or it's, and my hip was healed.
Wow.
So I immediately told my husband at the time what happened, but I didn't tell him about my hip because I was like, oh, that's not possible. I'm like, no, it'll hurt in another couple days, right? I'm like, this is just, there's no way. And so I spoke about everything that happened, but for 3 months, it took me 3 months to acknowledge that my problem was not going to come back on my hip.
Wow.
And that's when I really, it's like they created this situation for undeniability for me, Yannick, right?
Yeah.
Like I asked, I want you guys to show me something that is going to, no matter, like totally shift my perspective that I can't deny it. So if I had the meditation, it would have been cool, right? Oh, that was like a cool astral meditation. If I had just seen the ship in the sky, it would have been like, did I really see that? Oh, I can deny that, right?
Yep.
If I had woke up with my hip feeling better with not any other connection of anything, it would have been like, wow, that's a miracle. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But they obviously, created this so that I would know for not question, there's no way I can question it. But also to see the power, to see the ability that's out there. So that's the like quick overview of the encounter. But what's fascinating to me is it encapsulates my entire life. It's allowed me to backtrack timeline again, certain pieces of it. So do you have any questions before I continue?
Yes, please.
talking about
No, I love it. I like when you take control, because I don't want to interrupt people, because
Okay.
might the energy might cut,
Yeah.
and you might lose something.
Okay. That's
So I guess the being that came for you was well, it's a gray, of course. But the fact that she had hair, she has to be a hybrid. Did you get a feeling from that she was maybe part human, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I received information that she's basically she's a higher aspect of myself
Okay.
in a parallel reality.
Okay.
And she came to get me.
Okay.
How
Sweet.
cool is that?
Yeah. So you were talking about her skin tight suit. So that's something that comes a lot. That it's repetitive. A lot of the people that do say that you've got these suits, but they're all skin tight. I have no reason. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I
but
know.
yours was black, which was it's amazing. That's the first time I'm hearing that. A lot of the time they say it's blue for some reason.
Huh.
Yeah. Do you remember how tall she was?
She was shorter than me, and I'm like 5'6". So
Okay.
I think she might have been under 5. She was definitely under 5 feet.
Ah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if she's got a mixture of human DNA, she's probably a bit taller than the norm, but
Yeah.
okay. So getting to that ball of consciousness, that really rang a bell, because my 2 UFOs that came overhead were somewhat I can't say perfect balls, but they were like a bit elongated, a mixture between an egg shaped and a watermelon.
Yep.
But mine were orange red. So I call it lollipop orange. But
Yep. Yeah.
so so that made me think, could that also be that conscious? Because I always thought that the UFOs might project energy, and that's what we're seeing, instead of seeing those normal saucer shaped UFOs. But yeah, it could be also a consciousness itself that's moving, that came overhead.
Mm-hmm.
But you were inside, though. Was there anything inside of the ball, the sphere, or what? Or was it only you two?
You mean like the mothership when I got?
No, before in the craft
Just
or whatever.
No. It was literally just an energy, like I said, around us. It was empty. So to me, it was about her. It was like a consciousness that she was projecting that created this envelopment around her.
Okay.
That allowed her to come here, and then allowed me to get in and to go with her.
Could you see through it, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the fact that as soon as you got in and you hopped on board, I guess it might have taken just a few seconds to get into orbit or wherever you went. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, they're like, well, why didn't you wake your husband up? And, well, first of all, it was too fast, like when I saw it out of my window. But the other fascinating aspect to that is there's a reason why he was asleep, because if he was awake, he would not have seen this,
mm-hmm.
because it wasn't meant for him.
No.
It was a very specific
for you,
connection for me.
Yeah.
And it was a live consciousness. So his frequency that he's at, they weren't connecting to his frequencies to be seen. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And there might have been a fear factor too.
Of course. And then it would have given me question, right? Mm. They'd be like, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have, they were very specific that I was not to have any question about this situation.
Wow. But the fun fact is that you got confirmation that something happened. And like I had a few experiences where, well, I got confirmation like a day after that. So I knew that something happened, which I got into my interview this week. But coming back to the fear factor thing, a friend of mine, an American woman from New Jersey, roughly, Long Island, sorry. And she, before that, she wasn't an experiencer, but she, during the night, she hears in her head a voice say, "Wake up now." She wakes up and she's seeing these three, I guess, football-sized orbs moving. Like she was sleeping on her second, well, the second story of the house, okay, in her
Uh-huh.
bedroom. And outside, she was seeing these three huge orbs moving just in front of the bedroom window.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so they woke her up to see that. She
Yeah.
wakes up her husband at the time. The husband sees that, and I'm not sure if the guy took his gun, but he ran outside just to tell the spirits that get the hell out. But she didn't want that. She thought it was
Right.
amazing. So I guess because of that, and my some of the interviews I did on the web and on the net, she saw that and she contacted me, and that's when she shared it. But again, she was ready for that, but he wasn't. So.
And that, Yannick, that is what all the difference is. And I heard you talk about, I'm trying to remember the part that you talked about specifically. And you just said it so well in your interview that I listened to about the perception, the frequency that we resonate at. If we're living in fear a lot of times, then we are going to see fear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same things as outer worldly beings coming to us. I mean, it could also be the neighbor coming across the street, right?
Yeah.
If we live in fear, we think somebody's out to get us. This isn't going to go well, right?
Yeah.
So that is a lot of times, and I've been finding this in this arena, is a little more prevalent that people see what they are literally the frequency of. So they're actually seeing and having not very good experiences because a lot of times our subconsciousness is very unhealed.
Yeah.
And in a lot of fear and in a lot of pain. And then that becomes a projection at times.
Okay, remember the story about the British contactee?
I don't know. Which one is that?
The girl that I almost married, she was a gray abductee. And we, thanks to her, she's the one that woke me up. And we were outside and we were doing CE5, and that's when the craft came in. But this happened in August 2013, and everybody was outside. So that the ship was so close to the power lines, everybody should have seen it, but we were the only two.
Mm-hmm.
So again, coming back to your story, again, that this thing happened to you because it was meant to. Because again, like you said, it changed your life.
Yes.
Could the impact would have been the same if that happened to your husband? I don't know.
Definitely not. No. Yeah, it was not meant for him. I mean, he has received the ripple effect of what it has offered me, so he has received a lot of healing from. I mean, it really was the most healing. Like I said, they cracked my heart open, compassion wise. And that brings me to 30 days prior to the encounter. And of course, when this is happening, I'm not remembering any of this stuff. I'm just like, oh, this is my life. But then when I started writing about it, because I knew I had to start doing some writing about it, write a book, which I keep going into and then not finishing. Mm-hmm. I realized that the first major vision that I had ever had was 30 days prior to that. And that was this octahedron. It was like this rose quartz octahedron that came to me in a meditation when I was in Florida on my boat, exactly 30 days before I had the encounter. And the other interesting aspect to that, Yannick, was it was my birthday. And it wasn't on my birthday. I think it was the day before my birthday, but there were two major eclipses that bookended my birthday. And when you work with astrology, you recognize that when somebody has two major eclipses around their birthday within, I think it's like a 7-day window. I'm not an expert. I'm just, on that part, that you end up basically having this, you receive a life transforming event. Something's going to shift, and it's up to you, right? How you receive that. You either, create it as a blessing, our transformations a lot of time are struggle and pain, or, whichever way. So it's really interesting to me that this happened during that window of time, because that was the precursor. I realized, I feel in my knowingness that this rose quartz octahedron that they gave me in this vision while I was meditating, basically it showed up above my head. And I'm not somebody at the time, I had never really seen anything. I don't envision things. I do meditate. I do a lot of knowingness. I get a lot of information, but I never see a rose quartz thing above my head. I'm like, what is that? And it was like so physical, and it just started spinning and spinning and spinning. And then it started going around my body and spinning, and then it split, as you can see in the graphic that I showed you. So it split, and then they started counter rotating, which created like a DNA helix, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I had this meditation 30 days prior. It was like, wow, it was the most intense meditation I ever had. I started drawing it out. I started writing about it because I knew this was big. So for 2 weeks after that meditation, this octahedron would not leave my body. So for 24 hours a day, it was following me everywhere. And I wasn't in meditation. So I started receiving information that they were upgrading my frequency. And I was like, well, this is interesting. I've got this thing following me, and it's like, it's doing all these crazy things. But I had, I just knew. I knew it was upgrading my frequency. I didn't know what for. I just knew. So, but it took me like 6 months to put the pieces together. Right? Because I had the UFO encounter. And then then I was like totally forgot about this octahedron thing, right? Like, oh, that's nothing. But then when I sat down to start writing about it, I was like, oh, this has got to be part of that. So then I continued to do more writing, and then they started like working through me, through my heart. So, and this is very interesting because, I kind of wish that they would have picked another way to work through me, because I physically was having heart issues, because they basically were filtering these upgrades through my physical heart. So I was having palpitations. I was having SVTs, which are called supraventricular tachycardias. I went to cardiologists. They hooked me up to stuff because I was getting nervous. And I travel around the world, right? Like I go to China. I can't have a heart thing when I'm flying over the ocean for 12 hours with nowhere to go. I'm going to be proactive, right? This is the thing about being here, right, on Earth. It's like, well, we are human. We do have to like pay attention to physical symptoms, even though I know, right? I know intuitively why this is happening. And I don't think it's going to harm me. But so long story short, nothing was found. They're like, oh, you're fine. Everything. And I'm like, but you don't, this is what's happening. No, you're fine. But through the writing that I ended up doing, they showed me basically, they broke down a process using this octahedron as a tool and explaining to me how this works to even work with other people. It's like, basically, we all have our own octahedron. We are the octahedron, basically. You can look at it as Metatron's cube. You can look at it as many different ways. But it's about tapping in and opening ourselves up, our heart. It works on our heart space. So through this journey since that time frame, very quickly after this encounter, I started recognizing the world around me in a much, much different way. It was like I just felt like I was everything. Like I felt like I was the tree. I felt like I was, and I could understand everything and everyone, like there's no judgment anymore. It's like, I am you, you are me. But it also, which something was very needed in my life, allowed me to love myself deeper than I had ever had the ability to love myself. But sometimes when that happens, we have to make life changes, because up until that point, maybe we've not been living a life that making choices that are really for, love of ourselves. It's probably for love of others.
Yeah.
So I went through a big, big transition in my life. Beautiful journey, but it's been an up and down journey.
Okay.
But I know it was very purposeful.
Did you, let's go to the, in the beginning, I talked about the fact that, you were doing these sessions, to help others, these, I can't remember the word, you had these conferences or help sessions in Bimini and, the Bahamas and Florida.
Yeah, it's basically their soul transformational retreats that I take people on, and I read their information in their hands, which the lines in the palm of your hand are connected to your neural pathways in your brain. It's a blueprint.
Okay.
So it's literal how you function. It's your subconscious right there, and I just break it down for you, open it up, intuitively dive into what I see is blocking you.
So is it more than palmistry, or is it
yes,
the same?
Absolutely. Yes, actually, it's a combination of ancient palmistry with science-backed research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a really, really powerful modality. I mean, people's lives change in amazing ways by doing this work.
I'm a huge fan of iridology. I knew my symptoms because I've got RA, and I knew my symptoms growing up, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And until I started researching iridology, I saw in my eyes all my health problems.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's when I knew, okay, this. And when they start disappearing in the eye, that's when it starts disappearing also in the body. So, I had a lymphatic nodule that was a bit big on my neck. As soon as I started going on fruits and being vegan, detoxing, that thing started to come out, and it's gone.
Amazing.
And it's gone. I saw it in my eye, and it's gone in my eye as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So the body has ways to show what's wrong. It's just that we were so brainwashed by this allopathic crap.
I know.
So now I guess we're rediscovering all these things that was probably known in the past, but
it's all coming back, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get to the people don't know the power of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally mind-blowing. When I started meditating was a bit when everybody thought it was the end of the world, 2012, blah blah blah. Yeah. So I started meditating around that time, and nothing happened, of course. But who knows? We might have switched realities. But I remember when I think this was in 2012. I started meditating, and for a month, every day for about a good half an hour. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I felt I was going to go into the void somewhat. I'd leave my body, but I always stayed. But when I went to bed, and then I think I might have talked about this in one of my previous interviews, but as soon as I closed my eyes, what I see behind my left eyelid was a box, like an old movie box, but I was seeing somebody, I was seeing an old typewriter, the ones that we had to push.
Yep.
But I was seeing a side view, and I was seeing somebody typing. And I thought, oh my God, the feeling that came to me from that was that whoever was showing me this vision wanted me to blog my stories down. So, the next day, that's when I was, we weren't dating before, but, that's a bit after when I knew that my ex-fiance told me about star seeds, and, I was probably a star seed myself. So, I researched a lot about that, but, I meditated, had that vision. So, and she used to blog her stuff too. So I went on the same site as her, started blogging. At night, I start meditating again. Of course, nothing happened. I go to bed. As soon as I close my eyes, I'm seeing again on my left eyelid, because I'd open my right, nothing was there, but
Yeah.
I realized it was on my left eye for some reason. And
Yeah.
instead of seeing the the typewriter, I'm seeing two hands shaking. So what came from that was that they were congratulating me for blogging,
For paying attention.
for paying attention.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and from that on, from that point on, that's when I started opening up more, and eventually, I did my first talk and whatnot. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's amazing that, how things can happen after that. And once I was meditating with a group from Australia, and so I was sort of shining my energy outwards to bed, and I wake up during the night, and as soon as I wake up, I hear a voice right in front of my face, and it says, "I need your help." Right here. No one was there. So I thought, okay, it could have been a ghost. So I call out my guides and ETs and friends and whatnot, and I asked them to help this soul. I fall back asleep, and the night after, I get these whole bunch of taps on my thigh, like a thank you. And that woke me up, and I fell asleep, and
Interesting.
nothing happened after that. But again, it's amazing how we shine outwards when we meditate.
Yes.
Did you see your mom when you were on the craft?
I did not see her. Yeah, it was just repeating the whole time I was there. Your mother essence is here. Your mother essence is here. But you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because the other part of the story I forgot to tell you was the next day I called my friend, who was my mother's best friend and neighbor. And now her and I have become good friends since my mother passed in 2007. And I was like, okay, you're going to think I'm batshit crazy. Like, I'm telling her like what happened to me. Right. And she's listening and listening. And she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, what? She goes, your mother used to tell me, okay, so I live a mile down the road from where I grew up on the same river. So my mother used to tell my friend that she used to see ships coming in and out of the water in our river. Never told me this. I had no idea. So I'm on the phone and I'm like, what? So that was like another, obviously major, here I am here. They're telling me my mother's essence is here. My mother's essence is here. So I'm like, I feel like I've been shown that it's like, I almost feel like my mother was here on some level to do the mission that now I'm doing. And my mother, like, energetically, she didn't have the support to get done what she needed to get done. And because her passing away was this, enormous wake up for me. And having her on the ship, it's like, I just feel like we're all connected to ancestrally to this race, whatever. I don't even know. I don't know what race,
Wow.
to be honest with you.
Now, what people realize, well, they don't realize that, again, when we die, a lot of people, especially during times of COVID and all that, a lot of people freak out, and they're all, wearing these masks, and they're so afraid of death, and now they're being controlled with that.
I know.
Thanks to these experiences, we see life differently. And
so different.
So I guess, there's less fear factor. It's like, okay, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Let's get it on. I'll come back if I want. Now, these are stories. I might have gotten into it once or twice, but, this is for you as well. There's a lot of, when it comes to death, there's a lot of proof that comes back to us. Sometimes even physically. A friend of mine in the US, he was on his patio deck with other friends, and he had his mom was, when he passed away, and she called him, I think, Mac.
She call him what?
Mac. It's like a pet name, or like.
Okay. Yeah.
And so his phone starts ringing, but the number was like not a valid number, like all these jumbled numbers. Everybody's on, and he's got a few friends on the deck. He opens the phone, everybody's hearing it, and he says, "Who's this?" And the voice was her mother's voice on the phone, and she says, "Mac, I'm okay."
Wow.
Okay. With the British girl that I've almost married, before we met, she was back home in the UK, and she was speaking. Her husband hanged himself. He had
Mm,
he had trouble, health wise and stuff, and he killed himself.
yeah.
And I might have said this once, I think. So she was on her phone with a friend, and the telephone line starts to.
Yeah.
Then a young girl starts talking on the phone, and the girl says, "Contact established." Then a man starts speaking on the phone, and it was her dead husband. She starts panicking. "I can't take this. I can't take this."
Oh.
She closes the phone line.
Oh.
Can you, so what the fuck happened? Because sometimes, I'm not sure if you ever heard when on British TV there was like a telephone a TV show. They got hijacked by a frequency, and
I
then
did hear
the
about that.
alien.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was wondering if it was something like that. So there's a lot of there's a lot of interaction of the beyond, or when it comes to
Yeah.
the dead with humanity.
Yeah. So you're wondering which part that I went through was like that?
Yeah.
Part.
So
Which part are you saying that you feel like is that for me? My mother's essence, or?
I don't know. It's the fact that she was there on the she was on the craft. She wasn't like on the beach, or the essence was on the beach.
It was just her essence being told. I was being told her essence was there.
Okay, so she was on the craft, and
yeah, that her essence, and it really caught me, because I'm like, that word essence, right? Because it's not she's here, right? It's not her soul's here. It's like her essence is here, and I'm like, essence, and it just kept.
Maybe for them the soul is the essence.
Maybe, yeah.
So if she was there and you're there, so you have to be connected somehow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Do you know? Is your dad still alive?
No, he passed as well. Yeah.
Did he have anything going on as well, or perhaps in the family something weird?
Not that he passed away back in 2001, and we weren't very close, so I never really connected with him about much of that stuff. So not that I know of. But
Okay.
I think that they, on some level, I think they were both involved. Believe
Okay.
it or not. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't, because on my side, I'm not sure about my dad, but my mom was a lot into angels and crystals growing
Yeah.
up. So that's why I wasn't really freaked out when it came to the ET stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's because sometimes you might, like, the whole reincarnation thing. Sometimes like a member of your family could have been your
Right.
daughter,
Oh,
and so on, in a past
absolutely.
life. So sometimes we follow each other.
Yep.
So that's what I'm wondering for you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had a past life regression, or what do you call the QHHT,
Yeah.
Dolores Cannon.
Yeah. Okay.
I did that right after, maybe like 8 months after my encounter, because I was like, all right, I need to know more. Like, I wanted to know more about the missing time, right? All I remembered was 10 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's another couple hours here that I'm not aware of. But what was interesting was, instead of me discovering anything about the encounter, I discovered who I really was, and who I actually am currently, working in all these different parallel realities, Yannick. I mean, it was fascinating. And I was crying the entire session, sobbing, because I have always felt this big responsibility on my shoulders ever since I was a little girl, right? I didn't know why, right? I felt like I have this big thing to do, and I have to do it. It's really important. Like, whatever it is, just this. And through this past life regression, it answered I was like, now I get it. Like, basically I came out saying I was from Andromeda.
Okay.
which I, at the time, believe it or not, was not familiar with Andromeda. So I'm like, because you're saying it, right? Which, you know how that works. So I'm like listening to the recording going, I didn't even know about Andromeda. Why would I say that, right? Because it's not really me. It's my higher self. This stuff is fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically, it unearthed for me that and this is the connecting dot, that I told myself I was this master teacher of heart, about basically opening ourselves up as deeply as we can to compassion, which was fascinating to me because that is what this encounter was all about for me. So it was like I was this master teacher teaching children from all like different realities and planets, and it was just my focus to work with them. And as I'm saying this, I'm just crying and I'm crying, and she's asking me, why are you so emotional? Why are you so upset? And I was like, because when they come to do their work, it's so difficult for me because I have to see them in pain because they come here to Earth.
Oh.
And they have free will. So they're here to do this amazing heart-centered work and be these, light-bearing, helping, their beingness is really meant to be here to help others activate, right? To get out of their fear. But when you come to Earth, you have free will. So as me being the teacher, I have to go like this and allow them that journey. And it's really difficult for me to watch, it's like a mother, right? Watching their children, and you're like, oh my goodness, I know it's all in perfect divine order, but so it was fascinating. So that was my past life regression, completely connected the dots. And I'm bringing this up because I actually said in the past life regression that I was the teacher to my entire family as children. And I was like, but that's not possible because they're older than me. And then she was, this is before I understood a lot of this stuff, right? This is 4 years ago. And she's like, but there really isn't time, right? And when it's in parallel, like you're working in parallel realities all the time. So before you even incarnate on Earth, you were already working. You've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to me, that I was like, wow, I tried to help my parents when they were like this. Fascinating.
Wow.
So that's how yeah.
Well, that's cool. Do you know, coming back to the regression, did you see yourself as someone else, or was it really, Marinna?
No, I was a man in the regression. Yeah, I was a man, and it was very interesting, and it was very similar to my encounter. It was like, yes, this is what's happening. Yes, this is what I'm doing all the time in a parallel reality, because I always feel like I'm working whether I'm working or not. And I've never been able to explain that, right? It's like, it doesn't make sense. So having this past life regression, it pulled all these pieces of this puzzle that I feel like a lot of times, Yannick, our subconscious is aware of things, right? Like we get these little, well, yeah, but then it doesn't make sense, right? Because we're like, yeah, but I can't connect the dot.
Yeah.
And that was another aspect that really helped me connect that dot. It was big for me. It was really hard for me to even think that I could have that ability to teach that, or to even teach this many people. But then it's like, no, everybody has a piece of the puzzle. Everybody, there's so many things to be taught. And so basically it was coming out that I was the creator of what I'm now being shown again.
Yeah.
And now I'm here to now do it in the physical at this time on Earth.
Wow. A lot of people, what was I going to say? I forgot. When it came to, when you had your retreats, what type of, like, do you do healing on people, or like Reiki, stuff like that?
No, I learned quantum touch, which is similar to Reiki. It's running the energy. I don't do any hands-on work.
Okay.
I just trust my guidance, and I have the right conversations that I feel like need to be, I ask very, very specific questions, and follow my intuition to what I see is going on with their soul, and what they're having a hard time not consciously recognizing.
Okay.
So
it's a form of mediumship, perhaps, what you're doing?
Possibly. Yeah. It's, I don't really have a word for it. People ask me all the time exactly what it is. And I'm like, I don't know. If, like, come and work with me and then you can tell me what it is.
Okay.
But all I know is I have to do the work. I want to do the work. I know what happens when people are guided to work with me. I mean, miracles happen in their life. It's not me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just coming through me, and I'm opening it up. I have no credit for it. The only credit I have is stepping in and doing it, right? Because I don't have to do it in the human form. So I do take credit for actually recognizing its power, stepping in, doing it, and desiring that outcome for other people.
The last interview I did, I had this guy that didn't, believe none of my story at all. So, I guess we do this because we want to, we have to. And, the message that we've got, those that need to listen to it or resonate with it, we'll find it.
And you know what, Yannick? Even he is receiving exactly what he needs from your story.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's something that's triggering him to question, right? What happened? And so it's a mirror that's happening within himself. Mm-hmm. So because when you speak from the heart, from your situation, everybody, no matter how they respond to you, they get exactly what their soul needs in that moment.
That's so nice.
And that's what helps me, when people do question things, or, I'm like, that's wonderful. Thank you for questioning it, because you're receiving exactly what you need.
Okay. So do you know when your book's going to come out? When you're going to finish it?
I need help. Somebody want to help me? No, my problem is that my life is so fast and things are moving so quickly that every time I go to continue doing the writing, I'm like, I have to change. And what I mean by fast, I mean it on both levels, physical, but also etherically, because I write, and now things have shifted so much within me and my perception of reality that I need to change that story, because I don't even think that way anymore.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. So
it's like it's shifted. It's like this. It just keeps going. So it's like, I feel like right now I'm living the book. I feel like it's very difficult to put the energetics of it on paper. It will get done in the right time, in the right place. But yes, hopefully.
I thought about writing one, but again, I'd like to have answers to a few questions before doing that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that might take a while, because a lot of people might say, well, what's the proof? But you have to meet the individual, because just listening to a story, you can dismiss anything. But when you meet the person and how the energy of the individual and how he interacts with you, and you can really see if your bullshit meter is gonna start going crazy.
Yes.
And so yeah, well, when it comes to the book, if there's time for it one day, probably I'll get it done. But again, there's
lots of other things to do, right?
To do, yeah. So if there's nothing else, we could call it a night. And
yeah, that sounds good, Yannick. Yeah, this was great.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
So to you guys listening in, I hope you enjoyed it. More experiencer interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Marinna.
Thanks, Yannick.